Greetings to all the lovely ladies and gentlemen out there. I'm your host, the ProGent, and today I wanted to talk about something a little sad. The other day, this would be Monday, February the 5th, 2018, John Mahoney, a very fantastic actor, passed away, and it's weighed on me a little bit thinking about him, because specific works that he's been in have been very important to me as I've grown up, and I just sort of want to take a moment to remember those times, because I feel like those were very prolific times in my life that really shaped who I was and what I wanted to do with my life, and why I really ended up wanting to do this channel. The first thing would be The Iron Giant. This was a movie I did not like as a kid. I remember it was played over and over again on Cartoon Network. They basically were exclusively playing it a bunch of the time. I remember I was probably, I want to say 7 or 8, and I think it was back then they did like a 24-hour Thanksgiving marathon of The Iron Giant, and I couldn't stand it. Like it was just so annoying, and I didn't really like the art style when I was younger. But I always remembered that, like, whenever I tried to go to Cartoon Network to watch something and it was on, I either came in at the very beginning, which we had a lot of the main character Hogarth, and at the time I was just like, oh god, can this kid shut up? Or I came in around the climax when the giant is trying to protect Hogarth, and the general has rolled in with the military, and we get that fantastic line, "Where's the giant, Mansley?" Which is one of my favorites. That is such a good delivery for such a serious line. It's funny while being serious, and that was John Mahoney. You know that, and that was the line that I always remembered, because he seemed like a villain, even though Kent Mansley was a villain, but at the same time he was very much a good guy. And it wasn't until I was a young adult that I went back and I actually watched that movie, and I thought to myself, I think this movie is better as an adult because it took a lot of risks that I don't think kids really would understand at that sort of age. The animation is very different. The pacing was a little different, and the cast was phenomenal looking back at it. Vin Diesel being the giant, and in his usual knows like 3 lines of dialogue character that he voice acts. But it's because I remembered this line of his that I decided to go back and rewatch it not too long ago. It was only a couple of years ago when they brought it back remastered, and it deserved it because of how much of a failure it was at the time, and now it's considered a classic, which I think it really does deserve. So that would be the first of the 2 stories about John Mahoney's performances that really left an impact on me. The other one would be much more recent. This would be a few years ago, back in, I want to say 2013. I had just dropped out of college. I was absolutely miserable with my life. I couldn't find a job, and I hated trying to find a school that I enjoyed, because that was one of those things where I was basically raised to believe, and the educational system that I was in was like, if you don't go to college, then you'll never succeed. So I was miserable going to various colleges in my area and not being able to succeed in them, because I didn't like the teachers, or I didn't want to subjugate myself to a specific schedule that I couldn't handle. And at the end of the day, I didn't want to spend money that I didn't want going to a college that I just wasn't comfortable in. So I was miserable at this time, and it was getting around Thanksgiving, and I finally got my first job interview at Barnes & Noble, and it basically changed my life because I was able to get that position for the holidays, and I often worked early evening shifts, so I would go home and I would be home at like midnight, and I would have to eat dinner then, and it was a time where there was very little on at the time, so if I wasn't playing a video game or watching something on YouTube, which I didn't really want to get my computer out to do if I wasn't going upstairs like to go to bed or something, I would sit in my kitchen, make myself something easy, and then I would turn on the TV in hopes that there was something on like Adult Swim or maybe like sci-fi or something that could be interesting. And then my aunt visited around this time, and she basically has the Hallmark Channel on nonstop. One of those people that always has the Hallmark Channel on and loves the Hallmark movies that they put out, which is basically the same movie with a different hat, especially Christmas movies. But she watched like the Golden Girls in the evening, and that's what got me into the Golden Girls, and I would keep it on past when that allotted time slot passed, and Frasier came on, and I'd never seen Frasier before, so I decided to just sit down. I just decided to sit down and watch something else that I had never seen before, and I basically instantly fell in love with the series. It was smart, it was funny, I loved the actors and actresses in it. I could watch David Hyde Pierce and Kelsey Grammer bicker all the time, and of course, John Mahoney as their curmudgeon-y father, Martin Crane, was just a delight a lot of the time. I cannot stress how much at that time it meant to me to find a show that I could watch at that time of night, because I was wide awake after like an 8-hour shift, and I couldn't sleep. So I would stay up and I would watch Golden Girls and Frasier, and I would look forward to Frasier more so because I felt more connection with the characters, and that's not to say that I don't connect very well with like the Dorothy and Blanche from the Golden Girls. They my girls, but Frasier meant so much to me because I often feel like I'm smarter than I think I am in some situations, and that's usually because I end up talking with people that don't know anything about like what I'm talking about. Like I have specific purviews. I know a lot about video games, I know a lot about cartoons, I know a lot about anime, but a lot of the people that I know don't do any of those things. So I always feel like I'm the odd person out, and in a way I feel like a mixture of Frasier and Martin at the same time, because I can't participate in something that I have no interest in, while at the same time I want to participate in this, but I also want to have some lead in the conversation because I feel like I have stuff I want to say, and when I can't say it feels like I get to watch, and that can be fun sometimes because you learn other things, but at the same time, you know, participating in conversation always makes you feel a little bit better. So I connected with these characters more so because of these personal experiences that I was having, and because of that, it left such an impact on me that it also let me explore other shows at the time, and even going back further, because after Frasier, I started to watch Cheers, and I love Cheers now, and I went further back, and I started watching MASH, and MASH is my favorite live-action show that isn't Stranger Things now, but it was Frasier that was the catalyst for this. And being a young person in their 20s just getting their first job and hoping to maintain it was so stressful of a time for me that I was so glad to have that. And I can't thank John Mahoney enough for basically being that person that I could watch basically every night and learn something from or get a good laugh with. It was something that helped me greatly at the time, and I can't thank that man enough for helping me in my times of need. So thank you, John Mahoney, for your years of absolutely spectacular acting. I think you were one of the best. You were a very kind man, and I hope that we don't lose any more people as fantastic as you so soon. I've been the Professional Gentleman, and thank you for listening.